Tills. How are you, Tills? Dirt, I just invited you. You should get the invite. Hey.
What up, sis? How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. I had my alarm set, and here we go. Thank you for taking your time because you didn't have to. You know what I mean? It's a bunch of other people you could have talked to, so thank you for hollering at me.
No, thank you for coming
Dag,
on.
what up?
Dag, what's going on? Those are people who are joining in.
What up?
No, but thank you for joining the podcast.
Hey, look, I apologize in advance if we break the internet because, when I don't really be on live that much. So when I pop on, it's usually like, 5K, 800,000, 6,000 in there, just an average.
Word. I'm all for breaking the internet. I'm all for it because I feel like the reason for this podcast is because I want people who are not tapped in or who are tapped in general, just to get the story of the person that I'm interviewing. Because I feel like we don't hear those stories of the artists that we listen to until they've popped, right? Until they're on a certain level. And then the people who are interviewing them aren't the people who are from the community for real. They're just like people who are commercialized. It's just all commercialized. And it's like, where is the community? Like, where are we back, boots on the ground? Like, where's the camaraderie? Where's the genuineness?
I agree.
Add that back into the space, and I just really appreciate you coming on. You said thank you to me earlier, but thank you to you for showing up and trusting me and my platform to have this conversation. Hey, what's up, Tron? So if anybody's joining, I just want to say quickly, this is Suga Friendz Podcast. My name is Alex Raquel, or you can call me Suga. Essentially, I started this podcast to have conversations with underground or rising artists. I typically like to use the word rising because I think that everybody is rising to their level of success, whatever they think that is. And I have dope conversations with artists who are grinding out here, putting out great, projects. And I just want to spread people's story and have good conversations. So that's what this podcast is. So stick around if you want to hear Let the Dirt Say Amen speak on his journey to music and, amounts of other things that we're going to talk about tonight. So I appreciate everyone in the audience for being here, and I appreciate Dirt for being here. So I always start off the podcast by asking, you've kind of already said this before, but like, how are you? How has your week been? Just how are you doing?
I am blessed right now at the current moment. I'm always blessed, but I'm aware of the blessing at the moment. I'm able to kind of see it a little bit better right now as opposed to other times when life blues can kind of cloud your vision a little bit. So I'm great, man. I'm feeling all right. My kids are okay. My lady is okay. Most of the people that I love are doing well. And the sun still shines. So man, I'm all right. I'm good.
I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad your fam's okay. I'm glad the sun is still shining because I think we are just kind of in a time where, sometimes the clouds can come over that sun and it can make us, feel a certain type of way, be in a certain type of mood. So I always ask the artists, I prioritize people's well-being, so I always ask how they're doing first off.
Wellness check.
Wellness check. Before we get into it, a wellness check. That's right. I just want to say a huge shout out to Dags because the reason why you're here, the reason why you're here right now is because I reached out to Dags to interview him because he's also an artist, and he just he, during our interview, he spoke like very highly of you, and he was like, you know, this is an influence of mine. This is somebody that I'm listening to right now. He's really dope, and he put me on to let the dirt say amen. And so I was like, and it was funny because while we were having the conversation about you, you like magically appeared, like you just came up in the live, the IG live, like right after we had said your name, it was like, oh, he's also here now.
Hey,
and I was like,
man.
I was like, this man is ill for real. I gotta connect with him. And so that's when I added you on Instagram, because I was like, that is amazing that like you speak of his name and he just pops up in the live. Like that is incredible work right there. So huge shout out to Dags for putting me on to
Thank you, brother.
Yes, because that's a part of being underground, is passing the word along to others, and you know, so that we can get tapped in.
T-Man, what up?
Yeah, what up? Dags, I don't even say his name no more. I stopped, right? Because he's gonna appear. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into the first segment, which is called Journey to Music. So I just mentioned your name, Let the Dirt Say Amen. So tell me about your name. Tell me why it is Let the Dirt Say Amen. What does that mean to you?
All right. Before we do this, I want to give all honor to the source that allows all of us to be, and I want to put on my cool nigga shades, because I just woke up not too long ago, but I know we need bright light and shit, and I want to feel important right now. I think shades make you feel a little more important. Anyway, I'm sorry, sis. Go for it. Please guide me as we do this interview when it's time for me to shut the fuck up.
No, you are so fine. However you want to do this interview, however you want to be, I let people be themselves. But I love names. I think it's just me tapping into just myself and my own personal, just my name is really important to me. We get our names, our first names from our mom. Usually our mom's names are at our parental figure, however. And so names mean a lot. And I think when an artist decides to name themselves something, there's a story, whether it's a big elaborate story or it's just, no, this is what my people in the streets call me, so this is what my name is. Yeah. And so I want to know why your name is Let the Dirt Say.
Okay, so let's break that down. First, my mama and daddy, but I believe it was my mother specifically, that named me Timothy John Hicks. I answer to any variation of Tim, just about, or Timothy, I should say, because that's the root. But needless to say, so look, if y'all ever run up on me, you don't have to say, yo, Dirt, what up? You be like, hey, Tim, what's good? All right, it's cool. I always tried to pick names that didn't sound like they had anything to do with me. Mm. So prior to doing solo material, I was responsible for a group called the Cornel West Theory.
Yeah,
so
I have that in my notes.
Yeah, the name was like, all right, how do I make this kind of sound like it could be a band, it could be one person, it could be a production team. You have to guess about it. So my boy, my close homie Rashad Dobbins, who performs under the name Messiah and Glitch, he is one of my close conspirators. Sorry, we doing some little renovating, so you might get some work. But my boy is always good with names, stuff like that. So he had this thing one day, like, I'm from Washington, D.C., the actual D.C. Please, everybody, make note of that. I am not from the thing that most people refer to now as the DMV. I am from that area. I am not from the DMV. I love that
too.
I make a very clear distinction. I am from the actual DC. So going back, my friend had all these kind of, I don't know, acronyms that he was making up, if you will, about DC, where it was like the first, letter is D, second letter is C. So it was like Dimensional Control, Dirt County, Daddy's Corners, all these, like, and then one of them, he said was Dirty Church. And I was like, yo, that's dope. So I said, I want to use that name to produce under, so that there's separation between the Cornel West Theory and the Dirty Church. So it started as like me, my younger brother, my man Godfather Shay, shout out to him. And I think early on I might have had the idea that it was supposed to kind of be this like conglomerate thing of producers, but it ended up just being me. So I just, would loosely use the name the Dirty Church. And then years later, after Cornel West Theory has been doing stuff for a while, obviously I get the idea to do solo material. So I released my first solo project as Tim Hicks X the Dirty Church, which, I was just paying attention to the younger people, and I noticed the use of X instead of and I was like, okay, well, let's just do that right now. And the first album was called Bullets. But as I was doing it, I discovered that there were some other groups or people that were using the name Dirty Church in some type of way. Like, I won't name their names now, but it was just, they had some variation of Dirty Church, Dirt Church, something like that. And while I strongly believe I was the first person to do that, I even have my ASCAP cards to prove it of when I, started my publishing thing and all of that. But that being said, I did not want to run into any issues down the line. Say, Lord willing, this thing does what I believe it's going to do, and it keeps rising. Like Big, Notorious B.I.G. had to change his name, on the way up. But that being said, one day I heard literally in my head, "Let the dirt say amen." So I was thinking of it more like almost like a chant, like a call and response between myself and people who ride with my music, because I was using the church at the time. And then I thought about it and was like, well, what if that was your name? I hit my man Rashad, yo, what you think? Because he was the one I asked about the Cornel West Theory name when that came to me. And he was like, yeah, that shit sounds slick. So it fit. It was like, yeah, that has a ring to it. Let the dirt say amen. Like, people always, it's a saying that everybody, I know in the Black community, depending on how you were raised religiously or spiritually speaking, you've heard someone say, let the church say amen before. You've heard a pastor, a preacher, somebody say, let the church say amen. So one day it was just like, let the dirt say amen. And it's like, all right, well, the Bible says we were created like from the earth, from the earth. I like dirty ass sound. I don't really care for sound to be extra crispy and clean, because everybody does that. Everybody is in pursuit of trying to be perfect for the radio, trying to be perfect for whatever, media options you have of getting your music out. Obviously now things have changed, but I appreciate the mud. That's the best way I can put it. I appreciate the funk, like the filth of music, because there's beauty in that. So yeah, here we are today, and it's stuck, and I ain't changing my name no more. All right, so everybody that's out there, this is it. This was, but that's how God wanted it. I was supposed to wait, and He sent the name. Let the dirt say amen. So remember, my mama named me Tim. All right, but let the dirt say amen.
Wow. That's so prolific. I love the story, like the origins of things, and specifically names. Like I said, I'm a names person. And Javante just said, hey, Suga, like how I got Suga is because my dad would always, this is something from the South. And my dad would always say, he would call me Suga. Like sometimes he would say it like, oh, she's sweet. But he would also, if I wasn't being sweet, he would say, Suga, like remind me, like you're supposed to be sweet. And so that's how I like play on who I am. So I love like the origins of names, how people get their names. I just love this story. I just love good storytelling, and I love good background. And that is a doom mask. That's dope in the back. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned while you were telling us about your name, about being from real DC. And I went to Howard. And you know, and so you know that I lived in DC. And so my entire time being here, I've noticed just in my short period of time being here, I've noticed like significant changes just in a 4-year span of being here.
Mm-hmm.
What I've noticed is I can always tell people who are really from DC and the people who aren't. Mm-hmm. Because there's a certain energy, there's a certain like cultural, historical vibe to the people who are from here. There's a certain like heart and pride for the area who are from here. And so you can easily tell the folks who are not from here versus the folks who have been here, who are from here, who have generations here, who have grown up here. And being from Howard, sometimes I feel like we are sheltered from, like we live in our own community, and we don't venture out into the community, and we don't get to know real DC at all because it's changing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, because you are one of very few artists under DC hard to the extent that you do and tell stories in a way that's prolific. I want to ask you to tell me about DC.
Okay.
I want you to tell me about DC in regards to yourself as well. But just tell me about DC. Tell me about DC in regards to Tim and your journey to music, and just inform us about it, because you speak a lot about DC in your music.
All right. Well, I can say this first and foremost, and this is something I got from my amazing friend, homie, and brother in the arts, God rest his soul, Black Indian, who's one of our champions, one of the people who got into the game early, meaning he was signed to a label, a major label, had a deal, and was working with larger artists long before we had folks like Wale and Tabby Bonet and Fat Trail start to make their name in the scenes. My man Black Indian once said to me that we are different than the rest of the country in a lot of ways, but one of the ways is this. He said the president has to take a shower in the same tap water that we do. Nowhere else does that happen. So the seat of power in this country, even though, you know what I'm saying, it's the White House and all of that shit, it's Washington, D.C. That's where that shit is housed at. There's something important about that. There's something important about the stories of people from that place, because D.C. is a model for everything. D.C. was to me, model for gentrification for everywhere else, because it's small enough for you to experiment right here and see what's going to happen when you allow people to live in a certain situation for time that after it goes on, things have deteriorated, you've lost lives, finances are not coming into the community the same way that they come into others. And DC is definitely one of those places that was neglected for a long time, but we knew that there was a plan in place. So gentrification, like I said, I think they experimented on us first, and then they start dishing it out to the other cities. So now when you go to Oakland, you start to see, damn, like this, I mean, unless you visited Oakland before this time, it'll look real different to you. Like I'm living in LA right now, like, and I'm slowly seeing how it's manifested over here. Shout out to my man Ronnie Bueller, super producer, artiste extraordinaire, and my brother. Love you, bro. But even in LA, like I'm new to the area, but I appreciate and love the area, and so I ride around a lot to just see, the conditions, see the terrain, and even down in Watts, in the Jordan Downs, a very famous neighborhood in the Watts area. I rode down there like when we first got here, and man, it's brand spanking new apartments right next to the projects. So it's happening everywhere. But I think, like I said, where I'm from is very special because we are the one city in the country that has to share our space with the federal government and not get the same thing that the states get. Taxing without representation. That's that thing that was on the back of our license plates for years. I don't know if they've changed it now to gentrification without representation. That's probably what they should put on the DC tag. So I heard it here first: gentrification without representation. Go tell somebody to hook that up downtown. But yeah, we are unlike any other place, man, in that we had to sit for years and watch every president that has been in office since I've been alive do their thing. Every Congress that has existed in the time that I've been alive. And by that, I mean the different people that might have changed seats and swapped jobs and, got promoted and got demoted. We deal with that shit directly. We deal with the lack of government aid directly in Washington, D.C. And for years, we've seen the results of what happens when you do neglect a place, when you neglect certain neighborhoods, but right beside it is the White House. Go a couple of paces up, and I guess what would be our equivalent of a Beverly Hills or a Upper West Side, of Manhattan. That shit looks plush, but if you go to Ward 7, where I grew up, it pretty much still looks the same. It's one of the few parts of the city that's still untouched. Ward 7, Ward 8, some of Uptown, Northwest, but yeah, we see the world differently because of the shit we've had to watch. We watched our mayor had to deal with all of the presidents and all the presidents, men and women. So it's a different experience, I would say, in that regard. Again, you got that bell or whistle when Tim is talking too long. Just be like, all right.
You're dropping gems. I think what you're saying is so true. And even from was lived here for a short period of time. Being from New Orleans, I'm down in New Orleans, and it's like the same shit is happening like there too. And I think you have what you're saying is very poignant because it is like a blueprint. And one thing I noticed when I first moved to DC, I was like, oh my God, the White House is right there. Like it's literally right there. Like when you grow up and you hear about the White House, you don't think like, oh, it's like you think it might be like sheltered off, like not like right there, like dead right there. There's barriers between the city and this large government that governs the entire nation, right? It is the state. And so I think what you're saying is so poignant about like growing up in a city where the national government is stationed, is housed in, and what comes of that. And I noticed a lot in your music, you talk about growing up in DC in the 80s. And so I wanted to, when I asked you about DC, I wanted to also talk about your relationship to music in regards to being from DC and your identity as a young man who grew up in DC in the 80s and watched how the federal government treated folks of our community, Black folks, going through a crisis and the violence and everything. Just how did that impact you in terms of just being your identity and then your journey to music, if it has any influence? It seems like it does because you talk about it a lot in your music. So I just wanted to kind of tap on that a little bit.
Definitely. Well, let's start it this way. Shout out to go-go music. Shout out to every go-go musician that ever lived, that exists now, that's still trying to keep that tradition alive. Because the city has changed even in that regard, where a lot of the youngins, they're rapping now.
Yeah.
They're not really on the go-go wave like that, but it's still, always going to be a staple of our city. So go-go, that's one of the things that influenced me. Go-go comes straight out of the neighborhoods that I come from. It was the way for, the city's youth to be in one place at the same time, preferably without the violence, without the dumb shit. It was like supposed to be an outlet. Now, unfortunately, because the music comes from the street will follow the music into the clubs, and we definitely had our experiences with some rough times too in the go-go scene. And I ain't even really played the go-go scene like that, to be straight up honest with you. I heard more from the periphery. I didn't really go or attend the go-go till I was, older, like in my teens, later teens. But being from DC, you have to dodge a lot of different things at that time. I mean, because I don't really want to make myself super OG because I was still a kid during the 80s, but I can remember the 80s. By the time the 90s hit is when I'm flipping into teenage years. Mm-hmm. So that was a different monster, but you have to maneuver a lot of things. You have to maneuver the traps that's in the neighborhood. You have to be mindful that you are in a place that is, again, a federal territory, so that's a whole nother ball game. I wouldn't say probably that DC might be the most heavily policed city in America because of all of the different law enforcement agencies that coexist right there. So it's like you got park police, you got Secret Service, you have a whole bunch of criminal justice motherfuckers that are in hot pursuit of young black men, young brown men, young brown women, young black women, preferably, because those are the orders they received. You have to dodge the people in your neighborhood that ended up falling prey to some of the things that somehow God allowed me to miss, even though it still touched close members of my family, my homeboys across the street. And the way that affected my music is, like I said, I think because you have to speak from the perspective of someone that is directly in the face of it. Like, it's easier to rap about the government if you live elsewhere. It's easier to talk about that shit from there because you can throw your stone and you all the way over here. We right there. Like, the government to me was in our backyard. People think that the White House and all that shit is the front yard. That's the backyard of DC. You want the front yard of DC, you gotta come east of the river where I grew up. You have to go uptown, northwest. You gotta go to that part of Southwest that people don't think exists because it's just spaces away from the monument and all those things, but it is the hood, it is the ghetto, it is where people are trying to figure out how to make it work every day. You know what I'm saying? So that affects my writing in a different way. So much so that the first solo album I did is called Bullets. And I named it Bullets after the Washington Bullets, which was our basketball team. And it kept that name for a long time. During some of that time, the city went bad, went crazy. The city became officially the murder capital of the United States. And imagine that being as small as that little broken diamond is in comparison with places like Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, which are way bigger. That we could lose so many lives in a short span of time. Hold on one second. Alexa, stop. My bad.
Okay.
At any rate, so my like I said, my debut album is all about that. It's all about my experiences growing up, how I got to the point that I was at that time, and the way that the city plays a role in everything pretty much that I do and the artist community that I represent does. Because when you see me, you also seeing all my peoples from U Street. You seeing Uptown XO. You seeing YU. You seeing Priest and Nomad. You seeing my man RNL. You seeing Born Out Music, Deborah Bond. All those people that came up with me on my scene, I represent them as well. So, the story is told a little differently. Like I said, when you gotta, be right next door to where the fuckery is going on.
Wow. Man. as a person who is from like a city where a lot of like fuckery has gone on, like, and just being from the South, like in general, like I always connect with people who are from areas where it's like similar. Like I think you just said, like DC had it like real bad compared to like everybody else because the federal government is literally like right there, like you said, in y'all's backyard.
Yep.
But it's just I never really I don't ever feel like since I've been here for the 4 years that I've been here, I've gotten like a good breakdown of like somebody who's from the city, who's been here, or from the district, who's been here, and like I've gotten a full story or like at least somewhat of a story about DC in a way that is like genuine and like somebody can remember what it used to look like, right? And versus like what it is right now. And all of like the fuck shit that is going on like in between to where you are now. And when I listen to your music, one of my homeboys in here earlier, Books, I talk about this with artists all the time, like, and he says this is like when I listen to an artist, I want to get a picture of what it's like to be where you're from. Like I want to get a picture of your identity. I want to know, and you know, we bring up examples like Kendrick Lamar and like all these other people. Like we get an example of like, if I like listening to your music is like hitting you up on the phone and listening to your day of what it was like being in DC. Like, you know what I mean? Like
I like that.
That type of like energy, and it's that type of genuineness that I think is true to like hip hop, and it's true to like why hip hop started in the beginning, right? Which was because folks in the community, particularly Black men, were going through a lot of fuck shit with police violence, neighborhood violence, etc., surveillance, and they're tired of that shit, and we're like, oh, I want to talk about some stuff. So they, you know, did some spoken word over drum beats, and then that morphed into 1973, and then so on and so forth, right? But I just love that. I love that those stories because I feel like it just brings everything together and it provides like a connection to the artist, and why they do what they do. And I think that's so important for it to understand and know that, to have some self-awareness and to know why you do what you do.
I agree. And that's what I hope. You know, I mean, obviously, I'm in pursuit of being a great artist. I'm in pursuit of being remembered, and I'm not asking for an untimely disappearance, but I'm just saying I hope that my legacy is one of something greater than just a local artist. However, I make it a point to make people know, hey, out of every city in the United States, I am by far, without a question, a native Washingtonian.
Yes. And you tell the story and you provide that story for those of us who are from other places in the United States, right, in the state. Like you provide that story for us and you provide like a genuine tale of it. And I think that's just so prolific and that's so profound. And I do, people are going to remember your work and people are going to reference it, and they already have, right? You already influenced. I hear like Dags put me on to you, like you already influenced so many other great MCs. So thank you for telling that story to us, to myself and those who are watching. I really appreciate you breaking down the history of DC and how it connects to you as an artist. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, if y'all want to hear the, you know, the story of Washington, D.C. as told by Timothy John Hicks, go look up an album called Bullets. All right, just type in Bullets, The Dirty Church, it'll come up. And that album is a good way of finding out a little bit about where I come from, because it's designed literally just to focus on what the people that are really, really from there will refer to as old DC. You get to hear what that look like sonically.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're bringing that up, because the next sort of like segment is like, let's get active. And I kind of want to talk about like where you've been and the work that you've done so far. And so it's poignant that you bring up Tim Hicks and the Dirty Church. And I know you mentioned earlier that under the Dirty Church was just you're producing. That's what you produced under. So what I was wondering to the album was like, is this just you? So it's did you just rap and produce on this? Were there other people involved in this album, or was it just you?
Nah, so as far as the production is concerned, like with the Cornel West Theory, I would say 98% of the production. Shout out to my man. Shout out to my brother John Wesley Moon. He would handle, that other percent of it, but it was mostly me with that. By the time I got around to Bullets, I did all the production on that. I do have features on the album, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like other artists that I love and respect from the city and from the area. Because make no mistake, I definitely made sure to represent the DMV as well, because that is how DC has a music scene. Is by all of the people coming to the district, and that's the center point, and making it happen. But it takes people from Maryland, it takes people from PG County and Montgomery County, it takes people from Alexandria and Fairfax to come into the city and make them things happen. So you got that too. Now, my brain is going sidetracked, so reel me back in.
No, you're right on track, actually. I was wondering that because I heard what you said earlier about you producing that. And so when I was listening to the album, I was like, wow, this sounds really beautiful. And I think when I joined one of your lives like a couple weeks ago, we kind of had a discussion about producing and stuff like that, and you producing a lot of your work. And, but I think what you said just too about features and like having people from the city or, from the surrounding areas be involved. I noticed that too when doing the research. I think that's so important as an audience, especially if your album is about what DC, the real DC is to include, people who are from the real DC and be able to tell that story. So I just really think you're like in the tradition of like in the oral tradition of like history and like providing like great tales for coming to age and journeys and historical relevance to music. And so everybody definitely go check out Tim Hicks and the Dirty Church if you can. Great album. I also want to talk about Cornel West Theory.
Yes.
Because I really enjoyed
First
that.
Spawn, what up?
Yeah. Because I really enjoyed that. Listening to the body of work from that group. So explain to me, was it a group of people? Like, was it just you? Like, explain to me sort of the structure of the Cornel West Theory.
So Cornel West Theory was, I would say at its core, a 6-person group. I always build us as a band.
Okay.
But some people, hip-hop group, hip-hop band. And so there was myself, my man Rashad Dobbins, like I said, who now performs under Messiah and Glitch.
Mm-hmm.
My man John Wesley Moon, who was one of the sound architects when we performed live. My sister Yvonne Gilmore, my sister Katrina Lorraine Skinner, who they both were, I don't want to limit them to spoken word, but I would say it was a similar vibe. And then there was my brother Sam Levine, who was our drummer for many, 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 many years. So at its core, it was those 6 people. When we were live, it might have been up to 8 people on stage, depending on who was sitting in with us, because I also got to mention my brother Ezra Greer from the mighty Opus Akabin. Shout out to Black Indian again, who was our bass player forever and ever and ever. And then we had a lot of good, just people, musicians from the city that were well known for doing their thing that would come sit in with us from time to time. But at its core, it's about 6 people.
Wow. Okay. So I want to talk about the body of work that y'all produced as a group. By the time I get back to Minnesota,
mm-hmm.
I want to talk because it was during the time. It was 2020, right? When you released the album, and it was like right in the smack of like pandemic era, like a lot of stuff going on in the nation. And when you listen to the body of work, like you very much get like commentary, like political, like social commentary of like things that are going on in the world. And it just felt very like tapped into what was going on. And like, I think it was interesting because you didn't get a lot of projects during that time, like artists working on music and producing projects during the time of the pandemic, that was based on what was going on at the moment. And so for me to be tapped into that and being able to provide something so beautiful and so cohesively during time of like crisis just kind of speaks to your earlier point of like being from a place where like it's always been some shit going on and I can function in a space where I'm used to this. I know violence against people in the community. I know chaos. And so I just want you to kind of speak to like the experience that y'all had putting that body of work together and what it was meant to do. Did you accomplish what it was meant to do? Just kind of like tell us about that body of work. And I want people who are listening to go listen to that body of work because it is incredible.
Thank you, sis. I think, I mean, I'm going to bounce off of what you said. I think you proved that we did what we set out to do, which was we want to capture what's going on right now, currently at this time. I think it had been a while since we had released something as the Cornel West Theory. I believe it was done like kind of at the point where I was making my transition to solo material. So it was like, all right, we're not going to drop like a full length, but let's do an EP and let's just make it, you know, reflect what's happening. You know what I mean? Because and our thing was this: we knew that during that time, because you had the pandemic happening, you had a lot of examples of police brutality, murder, and live and direct assassination of people in the community. And a lot of times you have artists that will kind of do stuff that seems more opportunistic than genuinely like, hey, I am really about trying to shed light on something that sucks and needs to be changed, versus I put out music that the industry sanctions and says this is okay, when that shit is very destructive 9 times out of 10. And then all of a sudden there's this, hey, let's heal the world song. So we knew that there was going to be a lot of that happening. So we waited for a time and we did like this one song, and my boy Rashad said, why don't we just do a series of songs that are basically protest anthems? So it ended up like, you know, I think we might have had 4, and then like the last 2 came at, you know, right at the very tail end. But it was, ultimately it was just about, okay, while, like I said, somebody else would just, all right, we're going to drop this one song about what's going on right now, you know, and people will get behind it. And then after this shit is over, we'll go right back to making fuck shit.
Right.
We said, all right, let's do a whole album of joints. One song, you know, let's make an album, you know, of songs. So that was the motivation behind that project. So like Sister said, if you are compelled to do so, fuck that. Just go and look up an album called By the Time I Get to Minnesota by the Cornel West Theory. Cornel with 1 L. All right.
Cornel West Theory. By the time I get to Minnesota, you guys, if you, like you said, don't even be compelled, just do it, because it might even be more prolific now that like COVID's over, but you know what I mean, we've gotten out, kind of out a little bit of sense of normalcy. And so I think it hit me like even more, I think, because I don't think we've come down from everything that happened.
Yeah.
And so I think it hit me even more to like listen to it like kind of like post, quote unquote, post pandemic. So yes, please go listen to By the Time I Get to Minnesota by the Cornel West Theory. Are you a fan of Cornel West?
I am a fan. I am somebody who developed into a mentee. I will hope to be considered a friend of Dr. West, but obviously he was kind enough to give us the use of his name in our name. I felt like he represented a lot of the things that we were trying to say in the music, so that's why I think that name came to me. And not only did he just give us his blessing with that, but like I said, Doc has been kind enough to show up for us in many different ways on many different occasions. Like the first, I think, 3 albums he's on. I feel like he came to DC several times, and over the course of the earlier part of the, I'd say like mid 2000s, we recorded our first project and dropped it right around the time that I think the first Obama presidency. We were like coming out of that tail end of Bush, if you will. So it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
And like I said, Dr. West has been gracious enough to lend us his voice on recordings. We've been able to be in the studio with him. We've been able to perform live on stage. He was there at our debut show at the world famous Bohemian Caverns, which is no longer open physically, but in spirit, in DC on the U Street scene. If you're ever at the corner of 11th and U, and you see this building to your back, that at the top, unless they've removed it, has a huge like saxophone structure and piano keys going on it. That is where Bohemian Caverns used to be. Very famous spot. So, we were blessed enough to have Dr. West come to what was known as Live, the upstairs portion of the spot at the time, and get down with us. We've been with Dr. West in Ohio, and it just we've had a good time of just being able to watch somebody who has an amazing testimony. You know what I mean? For sticking up for the people. You know what I mean? So that's who Dr. Cornel West is to me, I think, and to us, if I could speak on behalf of my peoples.
Yeah, he does. And when I saw it, I was like, he's so brilliant. Like, he's just such, like, I was like, it's so fitting because he's just, court dad.
Yeah.
I think he's everybody, you could say as like,
what up, bro?
Across generations, like, if you say a person who has been influential thought leaders in terms of advocacy and in terms of people coming together, Dr. Cornel West's name is always going to pop up. Just such a revolutionary. I hope I'm in the academic scene. I hope at some point I am graced with his presence. So it's just a blessing that y'all have been able to do that. And so fitting for the work that you all are putting in or have put in throughout the years, and you specifically.
I agree.
So I want to move on to the album Mount Olympus, because that you have a thing about being in like large groups and collaborating with a lot of MCs, like big band type collaborative projects, and I'm so here for it because another thing that I notice about you is that I can always identify your voice. Like I can always, like, I know.
Hey, what up?
It's so funny. What's up? It's so funny because I just got put on to you not too long ago, but like your voice is so identifiable, and like no matter across many different collaborative projects, and so many other people, because in Mount Olympus there was a lot of people working on that album. And so I can pick out your voice every single time. I can pick out your style. I can pick out, your content and what you bring to the table. So I always know when Tim Hicks is about to come on the scene.
Hey, I appreciate that. That means that I have found my voice.
Yes, you most certainly have. But I think the album was great, and it gave one of those like variants of sounds. Like I think each person on there like gave their like own uniqueness to the project. And I felt very like old school, like hip hop, like we just come here to talk about things and like rap and like drop some knowledge and talk about important things while also rapping very, very well. Like that's just what the project gave. And so I just wanted to know like what was the approach to it, like when you're working with that many people, like what was the goal? Like I just want to know like everything. Like I'm such a fan of like everything you guys are doing or you have done up until this point. So I just want to know from your point of view, working on this album, like tell us about it. Tell us what was the approach, the methodology, the everything about it.
Hey, first of all, I always say thank you because I'm appreciative. You know what I mean? Some people walk around with their nose up and that shit isn't, as important to them, but it's important to me. So thank you because I can tell that you really hear. You know what I mean? Um, that album was the result of, first of all, shout out to my humble monarch brothers, my man Roddy Rod, Camber, Sean Bourne, shout out to Choppy Chop, Grab Lover, all of those people. Um, and Judah, shout out to Judah, because Judah was our engineer for my album, God Hates Gucci. There's an album prior to that came out called Nino Green, which is by Camber and Sean Bourne, Kaimbr. And Sean Bourne is the other artist. They came together and dropped an album called Nino Green. I was blessed enough to be on that album. Then we came back, circled the block, did God Hates Gucci. I had Camber and Sean Bourne on my album. So then we said, yo, why don't we just do a group album where it's the three of us? So that's how the Three to Godway thing came about. Sean Bourne is an amazing producer. And so it was like, all right, well, like with God Hates Gucci, I did all the beats. On Nino Green, Sean did probably 90-something% of the beats. Shout out to Howard B. Knox, because Howard B. Knox is another amazing producer from our town that's been banging out some stupid tracks that have been a part of our projects. But me and Sean did a split pretty much on the Three to Godway production, where Sean produced half of it, I produced half of it, and then I think we have like maybe 2 joints on there from Howard Knox. So, but it was like I said, it was just the result of the collaborations that we were building at the time with the Humble Monarch movement. So Three to Godway, appeared, and I had a lot of fucking fun doing that album. And say that, like, and we even, like you mentioned, this a collaborative thing. There's a lot of people involved in it. And so we were able to get, again, other people from our area that's like, yo, get on this project, man, and let's, show the world what DC really sounds like, what the DMV really sounds like. Because people have one idea of what we sound like, but I don't think they really know, like, yo, they rapping like that down there. Yeah. Like, their beats sound like that down there. Like, yeah, we've been doing that shit. So we're trying to get people to catch up. And part of the way you get people to catch up is by uniting, showing people that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I talk a lot of shit, but that's based on my inspirations. Muhammad Ali is an inspiration for me. And he did not say, I'm the second greatest. All right. So I hope no one expects me to say that. But in saying that and in trying to be the best at what I do, I believe there are other bests. There are other greats just right beside me. So I want them to get shine just as much. And it wasn't totally my doing of who we brought in on the album, but you know what I'm saying? Just coming from my perspective, it was, man, these motherfuckers are just as dope. Like, people need to hear about them too. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when I was listening to it, I was like, this sounds like it would have been a lot of fun. Like, I'm not even an artist, and I'm like, yo, I know all these niggas on here can, first of all, y'all can rap for real. Like, this isn't just no play. Like, this is like, niggas is really doing this for real and at a high level and, like, making fucking music for real. And that album gave me, like, yeah, like old school, like, we just, all fire niggas just come together as one and hop up on a joint and just burn it down and then leave and be like, yeah. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
That's the energy that it gave, and I loved listening to it, and I'm still spinning it today.
Hey, thank you.
I want to talk about God Hates Gucci.
And he don't wear Louis.
Hey, that album is incredible. All of your work is incredible. That album, that album is fucking incredible. Like, down from the content, right, your critiques on societal things, down to just how dynamic and soulful it is. The writing is stunning. I think we haven't really gotten into that, but your technical ability in terms of writing is beautiful. You have great, like, incredible references, incredible sequencing. Like, the way you set up and tell stories is just, it's really beautiful. And I think God Hates Gucci, like, a lot of your work is a display of that. But I think God Hates Gucci is like, that album is fucking incredible, Dirt.
Thank you, baby. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I know you said you produced on it too. Like, just, it sounds beautiful. Just the soul in it. Just, oh man, I was like, this isn't real. Like you're making music for real, which a lot of people are not doing. Mm-hmm. Like, and you have a tapped in on, yeah, I can rap for real, and I can also tune into societal things. My content is together, and I can just make good music, instrumentation wise, musicality, right? Like, you're the package was there. Like, God Hates Gucci. That's an incredible ass album, man. So I just wanted to ask you, like, tell me about the process of God Hates Gucci. Like what were you? I have an idea of like I've already said, like, the content. Again, you have for critiquing like society and talking about real things and what's going on in the world. God Hates Gucci is a classic. I really do think, someone said that. I really do think God Hates Gucci is going to be a classic. I really if it's not already, like, I really do think that, like, that is just the one that is, like, for real. But like I said, I already kind of have an idea of, like, you know, just the content of things that we were talking about. But just from your point of view, because we'll also talk about, next we're going to talk about your awards, because God Hates Gucci won an award. And so I just want to talk about from your point of view, like what was your approach to God Hates Gucci? Like, I know it had to feel good, like, making it, because it just felt like it was just so effortless, your cadence. Like, just tell me about God Hates Gucci, because that album is incredible.
Again, we'll begin by saying thank you and thank anybody that listened to that joint, that passed the word along to somebody else to say, yo, you got to hear this. Thank you. God Hates Gucci came, you know, by way of God. You know, all my ideas are, my lady said they're from her. Some of them are definitely.
I know that's right.
But I give a lot of credit to the creator, because again, I can talk a lot of shit, but at the end of the day, it comes from somewhere. You know what I mean? And I hope that what I'm doing is in the tradition of the people that I admire, the artists that influence me to do what I'm doing. But that being said, God Hates Gucci showed up just like with perfect timing. I really wanted to follow up the Bullets album like right away. Like I like at best in my mind to be on course to say, hey, I at least drop one album every year, right? But it didn't work that way. It was just like, all right, stuff happened. I think the pandemic, like, Bullets dropped right before the pandemic hit. So, you know, we did the Cornel West Theory project. So it was time to do something else. And one day I was sitting there, I got to shout out West Side Gun and the Griselda family, because I had discovered them like kind of right after I put out Bullets. Somebody was like, yo, you need to check their stuff out, because y'all got a similar spirit in the music. And so I heard it, and instantly I was like, yo, it is amazing. So I went, started doing my research on them, and I found that West Side had a series of mixtapes, or albums, if you want to call them that, under the name Hitler Wears Hermes, right? And he said he was inspired by The Devil Wears Prada. And I was like, that's really slick. That's dope how you did that. And then, the thought just kind of tucked away in the back of my head. I didn't really go back to it intentionally. And I started thinking a little more into it in that he only used 3 words in the title. Hitler wears Hermes. And I was like, okay, I like that. You just, you can get everything instantly just in 3 words. So then one day, not thinking about anything, just I heard in my head, God hates Gucci. And I was like, wow, that has a really dope ring to it. Now, what is this about? What does this mean? God hates Gucci. It's like, all right, well, I think it's just a way of saying God don't like fuck shit.
Word.
And I include myself in that when I'm doing something that's not necessarily representative of the person that I would like to be. You know what I'm saying? But I mean it more about, people that are directly like out intentionally trying to harm other folks. You know what I'm saying? In any way. Sonically, it is one of the worst ways to harm people because that shit goes into your mind. It goes into your spirit. Like music can affect you in a way that nothing else can. So I want to try to make sure that, sonically my shit is on point with, again, the people that inspire me. So it's like if I say Curtis Mayfield inspires me, or if I say I'm inspired by Black Star, Most Def and Khalid, Yasin Bey. If I'm inspired by people like Common and Diggable Planets, as well as being inspired by a Wu-Tang or a Nas or an NWA or Black Moon, and I'm naming people that, again, come from my era, then you should sound like that. Your shit should sound like that. You know what I'm saying? As a way to still speak to the condition, but still be a fucking MC at the same time. So I'm always in a quest to try to figure out how do you do both. All right? Because I feel like some people don't care about being an MC. For some people, it's not about the art of rap anymore. It's not about being talented and skilled with a pen that you can put words together in this way that are just like, yo, that was really fucking slick. So, even at my age, at 45 years old, I'm on a quest to still be a super MC. But it's still something to be said about commentary, about what's happening. It's something to be said about somebody who's not speaking of the streets from the perspective where you're glorifying the shit that goes on, or the shit you might have done or experienced that is fucked up. But again, the industry says this is okay and this is what's selling. So you get a lot of that versus people that's, coming from a place of, yo, I'm from the hood too, but that shit sucks that my homie gotta go to jail. It sucks that I gotta go to funerals from somebody that was killed by gunfire. It's not cool that, like, somebody gotta say that shit too. So that's where I come in. Now, God hates Gucci specifically, like I said, it just that the name popped in my head. And then, I guess over the course of time, I started doing more tracks, like just making more beats, just randomly. And then they started to feel right, like, okay, these are the ones that should be on this album. I don't do a lot of like going in the studio and just recording mad songs that have nothing to do with each other, and then coming back and picking from those songs and saying, oh, this is the album. Right. I'm usually thinking of albums in a concept of the songs need to match the fucking music that's on the shit. The album cover needs to match that shit. Like, it's all gotta be, it ain't just about, oh, these were the hottest songs. Nah, this shit should be about what the feeling was at the time. So God Hates Gucci for me was a way of putting a mirror up to hip hop, of just saying, yo, to me, this is what the fuck we look like right now. This is what we sound like right now. And, sometimes you might just listen and think, oh, he's just spitting bars. But if you really, really listen close to why I'm using these particular words, when, the cadence, it'll begin to make sense that, oh, he wasn't just saying this person's name just strictly for a punchline. It meant something. You know what I'm saying? But that's the long version of, I guess the initial reason God Hates Gucci was done. It was just like, okay, here's your follow up. This is your sophomore project. And yeah.
Everybody, if anybody's the playback, everybody's gonna watch the playback of this. Please go listen to everything I said before this, and also go listen to God Hates Gucci, because it is an incredible work of art. And just like you just mentioned, like everything is purposeful, right? The placement, like I said, your sequencing, like your cadence, like everything really is purposeful in that album. And it is just really incredible. And if you go back into these comments and look, a lot of people were saying God Hates Gucci, God Hates, like a lot of people were like, that is my shit. Like, I love that album.
Hey, salute to y'all.
Yeah. So I want to next talk about your awards. So we'll start in 2020. Dags also put me onto the Whammies, because I didn't know. There's just so much. I feel like as a transplant, like there's just so much I don't know about DC and what it has and how it, honors artists and the music scene here. And I'm starting to slowly get a bit of introduction in that now that I, am into, DMV artists like Dags, and I got a good friend named Tills who's also from the DMV area. So the Whammies, so I've been looking into the Whammies, and I was like, oh wow, this is like a big thing. Like, this is like artists, honoring artists who are from the area without great works of art, and providing a place for that to be honored. And so I went in and I was like, okay, now I got to find Dirt. Now I know he's won some awards because I've seen him. Now I got to find out what he won them for, when he won them. And so I seen in 2020, you won for Best Hip Hop Album. So Tim Hicks and the Dirty Church won for Bullets for Best Hip Hop Album. Mm-hmm. And since earlier in this interview, hearing about that album and listening to it myself, like, I was like, yeah, there's no question. Like, it should have won, like, for real. And that's just not me gassing you. Like, I'm never the type to just, like, I gas people, but not unnecessarily. And so everything I'm saying to you is very genuine, and I do the work to really listen and understand. And so just to hear you talk about the connection back to DC, and there's no question, like, this album should have won Best Album, and it did. And then I'm going to talk about in 2020, 2022, you won for God Hates Gucci, and you won Best Hip Hop Artist. Mm-hmm. So you just
let's pop it up.
National awards over here. So you're an award-winning artist for the works that you've put out. And I just want to know, how does that feel to win, to be honored and to be recognized, for one? Because people have to vote for that. You have to be honored and recognized for that. Like, that's not just no play thing. Like, that's real life. Like, that's people sat down and appreciated the work, and people got it. And so I just want to know, as an artist, how does it feel to be an award-winning artist and to have people honor you, and but more importantly, honor the work that you put out, and because there's so much work that went into it.
This is the point where I take my glasses off, because I want everybody to see me at this point. All right, nothing happens by coincidence or chance. All right, God has been working through me and my music for some time. I am not new to the Whammies. The Whammies are not new to me. I was winning Whammies before they even came back to DC. Wow. Now, that being said, and that's on the creator, that's not ego. That's how we go. All right. Now, that being said, like I said, Bullets, like you said, Bullets came out. I was blessed enough to win Best Rap Album with that, because they split the categories into two. At one point in the Whammies, rap and hip hop were one category. Okay. And so in the recent years, they split them into two categories. But I won Best Rap Album for Bullets, and then, took a year off, come back, God Hates Gucci, and somehow God says, yeah, this is the one. You know what I'm saying? And the people said this is the one. Whoever was on the board said this is the one. Even if they didn't say it, God said this is the one. So I was very focused on winning that one in particular. Like with Bullets, it was just more of a like, let me be an antagonist and just keep talking shit about this, because I didn't know, again, how seriously other people took the Grammys. You know what I mean? Everyone takes the Grammy serious because it's national, or international, but there's still something to be said about conquering your local area. And it ain't just the city of Washington. It's D.C., the whole state of Maryland, and the whole state of Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to be said about, ending up in that number one spot at the end of it all, because there are so many people that, enter in the I don't want to call it a contest, but they enter in the runnings to see if they're going to make the cut at the end. So I'm thankful beyond what I could really articulate that I was able to pull it off. You know what I mean? But with God Hates Gucci, I was focused on that one. I was like once I even got in the studio with it, I was like, when I was, before I even recorded that shit, when I was rehearsing the rhymes, like sometimes y'all see me pop on live and just start running through raps, right, in rehearsal. I knew that shit. I was like, nah. And for me, I'll put this on my jacket, all right? God Hates Gucci was not just the best album in the DMV in that year. That shit is the best hip-hop album of that year.
Word.
Period. And the reason why I'm going to also say that is because, again, you go find me one that was produced by the artist, that all the lyrics are by the artist, that the album cover artwork is by the artist. Yeah, then when you find me that one, and all of that, and all of the music adds up at from song one to the very last song, then we'll have a discussion. But until then, take that for that.
Ooh. Yeah. No, you're so right.
It's a lot of people that have streaming numbers.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of people that have YouTube views that can boast this and that, yeah, I'm ringing out and shit. But how many of them actually have the trophies on their wall? Because it's still something to that. And since then, the whammies have gotten even bigger.
Yeah.
And I hope all the people that's watching go on my page, and I want you to look at the video when I accepted my award, or how I accepted my award. I did that on behalf of the real people that's been in the trenches on U Street, the people that's been in the trenches writing them rhymes, making them beats, break dancing, doing all the shit that is a part of this thing called hip hop. That shit was for you too. But it was definitely for me, because I did the damn thing, and I'm gonna talk some good shit here and there. You know what I mean? We humble, but again,
here's the one thing about being humble. I just want to put this out there, because I'm one of those people that I have talents, I have things that I do, and I believe in being humble. I also have grown as I become an adult to understand that it is okay. It is okay.
To talk your shit.
Talk your shit. Like, it's okay to be like, yeah, like, I really did this. Like, I accomplished this. Like, this is something that, like, did something impactful in a positive way, right? Wherever artist, or if you're a regular person just doing whatever, what you accomplished was impactful for you, was impactful for others. Like, as I've gotten to become an adult, I'm like, yeah, I'm humble. I also can appreciate the work that I've put into accomplishing. He said about that. So, but I think it's poignant about what you just said, like when you went into accept the award, what you did for, all the people, real hip hop, the folks that are from U Street. And I want to talk to you a little bit, because I spoke to Dags about this too. And I like to speak to all of the artists that I bring on here about the underground scene. And when you just mentioned streams and, followers and, all the shit that I like to call a person who's worked on the executive side of the music industry, what I like to call the optics of things, right?
The metrics.
It's the metrics, it's the data, it's the optics, is what people see initially when they come to your profile, right? But they don't see the of things, right? What's really going on, right? Like what you just said, find you somebody that produced, wrote all the music, did the album cover. Because a lot of these people who have all those good numbers, they aren't doing those things, right? And that's not shade, but that's just the facts. That's just the truth of the matter, right? And you have some folks that are doing that, right? But like when you get to that commercial level, it's a lot more like hands in the pot type of thing. And so there's something to be said about the underground scene. And I think the pride in knowing that my worth isn't associated with the optics of things, right? The fakeness of streams and, how many people following me, right? But when you can sit on an interview with somebody who don't know you from a hole in the wall in real life, and they tell you more about your project, like that's the real interactions of like what music it should have been about this whole time, and has grown into something that it's not. But from where it started to now, like those are the interactions that I love about hip hop, and specifically as a genre versus like other genres. And so I just want to talk to you about the underground scene and what it means to you to be underground or even rising, because I don't really know how people like the word underground either, because I sort of go back and forth about that too, in terms of the rhetoric of that word and what it has become, because even the underground scene has changed, right? You got the carpet dudes, right? We talk about Griselda too, and I think Griselda has entered into that red carpet scene of the underground, or like a Rock Marcy or like a Makami, like those types of dudes. And you don't always get the other folks who, may not are into the soulful music or, the grimy, drumless beats or anything like that. So I just want to know, from your point of view, like, what does it mean to be an underground artist? And I ask the same question to every underground or rising artist that I interview. Like, what does it mean to you to be underground?
I want to quote the world famous DJ Premier. Yeah. He said, underground live forever, baby.
Woo!
You know what I'm saying? Y'all keep doing what y'all doing. We're going to keep walking through the darkness carrying this torch. So I think there's a stigma that has been placed on that word. You know what I mean? People look at it like, I think when they hear underground, they hear unsuccessful.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, the UN means something different on this one, baby Paul. It don't mean that. It means that we are true to our art, to the point that we are not going to shift it in a fake way. You know what I mean? Shift the art in a way that is just for mass consumption, like intentionally. Yes, I want to make people boogie. I want to make people, you know what I mean, groove and all of that shit too. But I also want you to come away feeling like that was real. It just didn't feel all like it had extra glitter and shit on it. This feels closer to me and what I'm going through every day. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the fucking, and this is not to diss mainstream either, because we all want to succeed to that level. You know what I mean? It would be beautiful to rise to that particular stature. But for me, it would only be beautiful doing it this way. If I don't do it this way, and I did it in a way where it's like now motherfuckers are looking up and like, that's not really the Tim I know. Then it's not going to feel right. But I think that's what it means to be underground. It does also mean to be under the radar to a certain degree. It don't mean that don't nobody know, because trust me, it's a whole bunch of people that know that won't say anything.
Yep.
But they know who you are. They're watching your movement. Some of them have even picked up bits and pieces of your shit and will never give you credit for it, but they know where they got that shit from.
Yeah.
They know where they got that energy from. So that's what I think it means to be underground. It's just meaning to be committed to keeping your sound a certain way. You know what I mean? Like saying, look, I'm not going to shift this shit just for the purposes of going pop. Like if it goes pop, then it needs to go pop this way.
Word. And I feel like that is almost what's like missing, because I still do, like I have a ton of friends that like Dags I've gotten to know Dags, and he functions in the underground space. And I have a bunch of other artists like my good friends Books and Tills and NTS Music, like all these people who I know who function in the underground space. And I'm like, yo, like it does take a little longer when you're being you. Like you're being right, as right can be, right? Like, you know what I mean? When you're upholding what's true to yourself, like it can take longer, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want that. And I think from like the executive side of things and working with artists in the past, and what I always try and tell like even my buddies now that I'm out of it, like my friends and stuff, like, trouble don't last always, right? Like people, just like you said, people see, and people are going to have already caught on and are going to continue to catch on, right? And what separates you from like a major, quote unquote, major artist is just that like somebody who had the resource at the time was like, I want to invest in this person.
Yeah.
It's not the talent, or like you're not talented enough, or you don't have the chops to do this, right? We know that there are some people that function in that space, but even those people make it. Those people who, you could argue that, they're not putting as much effort, or they're manufactured in a way, like I like to say, manufactured talent, but they make it. But there's no separation. The only separation is the resource, right? Somebody who had the resource, I was like, I'm going to invest in this person, or that person had the resource by way of doing things.
Yes. Yeah, because a lot of hip hop is funded, and it's okay to say this because hip hop comes from the street. Right. A lot of the artists that you see, that shit is not just them. This motherfucker was at Walmart for 5 days a week, and he saved up his money and went to the studio. Now, it's not to demonize anyone. It's not to criminalize anyone. It's just to say that's real shit, that people work in the streets. That money comes over to hip hop, and you see that shit behind certain artists. Yeah. Again, yeah, it'd be nice if I, had some unidentified source that was like, hey, yo, and I'm, again, hey, man, I can't never pay this money back. So know that up front, all right? So that there are no hits on my life. That would be great, but it ain't like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't move that way, and I'm not trying to have that type of energy around my shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, all those people that I speak about, again, they are my family too. That's my cousin. That's my uncle. That's my man across the street that deals in that terrain. But for me personally, I don't have that type of luxury to have that type of budget and backing behind me, or even a legitimate source of funding that just looks and says, yo, man, I don't know what you're doing, but that shit is amazing. How can I help?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not that easy, or maybe it is. And again, it's just about timing. But you know what I mean? I would like to believe that there are still some philanthropists out here that recognize, gold and platinum before the shit is called that. You know what I mean? But it's definitely about the machine. When you see artists, know that you're not just seeing them, you're seeing the machine.
And there's a lot of people in the background who you'll never find out. And I think now, like, some of it is coming to the light, like, where people are getting hip to it, whereas back in the day, you used to never know. But you just knew, or people who was tapped in knew it was, like, either street funded or, like, somebody, like, wanted to invest, whatever. But I think what I love to see is, and I talk to this about, like, other artists that I've interviewed, underground artists or rising artists getting hip to, like, ways in which they can market themselves on a small scale, via like social media and staying tapped in with folks, like how I met you, word of mouth, thing. And, because I still believe in those methods as well. I still believe that there are good people like me, like myself, that, create platforms. Like the reason why Suga Friendz Podcast exists is because I want a space that is positive and genuine, that artists can come on to and not have to feel like niggas is hating and trying to compete with them, and just want to have genuine conversations about good music that, talented folks are putting out. And if there's anybody, like I've seen people in here too that I'm like, I know I influenced you to be in here. Like, I know I put you on to dirt and that's why you in here. Like, like that's the type of energy that like I want to keep going. And like, I really believe in that method as well. So that was one of my last questions. I wanted to also ask, you kind of mentioned this throughout the time that we've talked, but I just want to talk about your connection to faith.
Okay.
As a whole, we talk about, you talk about God a lot. You talk about your connection to being faithful. And I think that's unique right now, especially in, I think, the lane in which you produce music. And I think it's unique. You almost hear the opposite, right? Like you almost hear a lot of like, fuck niggas, bitches, money, like God hates Gucci, right? You almost hear a lot of like what your critiques are. And that's not to say like everybody has their own like different journey, spiritual journey, their own religious practices, but it feels very unique to the tradition that you bring to be able to speak about your faith, but also maintain like the musicality, and like it's okay to like talk about being faithful, and like I'm here because of the creator, and I still rap as good and some better than some of you niggas, and I'm producing like great art, works of art. And so I think sometimes people can equate like lameness, having faith, or like being driven by the creator, and I just think it's super unique that you do that, and you do that at a high level, and it's inspirational.
Thank you, Mama. I say this much: I am unfaithful. God is faithful. All right, I'm just as flawed as the next person.
Word.
Like, I don't ever want anybody to walk around with this idea, and I'm not saying that you have this or anybody else does, but I am presenting myself as the truth, or my truth. You know what I mean? And my truth is that I struggle with the same issues that the average human struggles with, the average male struggles with, the average black male struggles with, like all of those things. I may not, have the same demons as someone else has, but I definitely got ones to fight. You know what I'm saying? But I rely on the faith that I was taught. I rely on the faith that I have gained on my own over time, and the belief and feeling that there's something bigger than us, that there is a force that did create the mountains and the trees and the wind and the birds. I always say this to people, everybody believes in the wind, but they can't see that shit. You will not find any human being that will ever be able to say to you, yo, I saw the wind. Because you can't see that shit, but you can feel it. That's how I feel about the Almighty. So, you hear people all the time speaking and referencing God in different ways. Like some people reference God in a sense that it's all about them. You know what I'm saying? Some people represent God in a way that's fucked up and has nothing to do with God. I try to represent God in a way of saying that, yo, I'm flawed and I need your help so that I can be what it is that you say I'm supposed to be. You say I'm supposed to be the other person's brother. And you say I'm supposed to be a good father. You say I'm supposed to be, somebody that don't just turn their nose up when they see somebody in fucked up clothes living in a tent on the streets. And it's a lot of that shit here in LA, And so I think I'm just trying to walk in whatever light I've been given. And, you know what I'm saying? Just try to get there. Try to get to that point where I'm like, oh, yeah, now I'm a holy man. You know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, I can at least still tell people, hey, yo, I believe in the source. I'm going through shit, too, just like you. And I don't think you know worse than I am, man. I just think we both need to figure out how to channel the God in us, because we are God still, even though, like I said, I think sometimes motherfuckers get carried away with that shit, especially in hip hop, because it's like, I mean, a lot of y'all are God of being whack, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think you do it in a way that's like so genuine, and I think it's unique. And I just wanted to ask you about that because I'm like, yeah, like when you do hear a lot of artists like say God, it's like it's in reference to them, like I'm a god, like you hear that a lot. So yeah, that's interesting. Um, Tell us what's next for Let the Dirt Say Amen, or maybe it's not Let the Dirt Say Amen, maybe it's another alias in which you'll go under. Tell us what's for you as an artist, what you have coming up.
All right. Before I say this, let me say this.
Sure.
One of my biggest influences artistically is Bob Marley, and I hear God all throughout Bob Marley's music. He always referenced God, and he comes from the ghetto. He came from a place where motherfuckers were dying for all the wrong reasons around him, but he still managed to always talk about love. And I heard that God is love. So that's why I try to, again, reflect the inspirations that I have. You know what I'm saying? Marvin Gaye did a whole album, the What's Going On album, and one of those songs, God is Love, and you hear Marvin talking about God in that whole album. John Coltrane, he did an album called Love Supreme. That album is about God. So that's what we on. But anyway, moving right along.
I hear you mentioning that, and Bob Marley, the whole Rastafarian movement is like based in that, and I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, man, nobody's perfect, but we all got God in us. You know what I mean? We just gotta act like it, gotta treat each other like it. You know what I'm saying? But back to what you were saying, as far as what's next for me, I am going to kill the fuckery out there. Yeah, that's what's next for me. I am on a mission to dispose of whack shit. I am on a mission to offer people an alternative. I have a new album in the works called I Love You, I'm Not Sorry. So we're going to repeat that here. So remember, y'all heard that shit here first. So if somebody else, if you see that hashtag or any of that shit, I started it. It's my title. It's the one that was given to me by my older brother, Don Hicks. There's a famous wrestling scene for all the people that's into wrestling. I'm not super into wrestling, but it was just something that I saw, and Ric Flair was battling this brother named Shawn Michaels, and right at the end of the match, Ric Flair's like all wobbly, and Shawn Michaels is in the corner, and he's getting ready to, make his move, and he looks at Ric Flair and says, I love you, I'm sorry, and then drop kicks his ass. So what my older brother said, he said, yeah, we're going to start saying, I love you, I'm not sorry. And so this is kind of my way of saying, hey, I am unapologetically saying to you, this is what it is. Like, the sound that you hear is what it is. I've been through some experiences that have led me to write about certain things on this album that I did not speak on in God Hates Gucci. I try to get a little more personal into like, hey, this is what the fuck is going on with me. You might be going through some shit similar to this or have gone through something to this. I want you to know that shit is going to be okay. It's all right to have breakdowns and all of that shit because you're human. You know what I'm saying? But it's about bars too. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, it's going to always be about that because, again, I feel that the game is lacking of people that, like, it's some people that can rap.
Yeah.
Like, they're good. I don't know if they're great. I think a lot of people are getting credit for being great because the worst of our music got accepted the most. So you get some stuff along the way that kind of cuts through it, but it's still sort of average in my humble opinion. And so because of that, I write in the night to bring truth to the light. My dialogue is my own.
Okay. So everyone just be on the lookout for
I Love You.
Bars.
I love you. I'm not sorry is the name of the album. Remember, if y'all see somebody else say that shit, they got it from Tim Hicks. Let the Dirt Say Amen. One of the light-skinned gangsters, 3 to Galway. All right. You see I got the beard braided. Thanks to BB LaMonica. Shout out to my man Howard Knox. I love you, brother. Yeah, this like I said, it's in the works. I needed to make sure that the album was complete. You know what I mean? Before it even goes into the studio. So it's now complete.
I've heard some of, at least I think some of what's on the album. And I can already tell y'all, it is fire. Like, before it has even been mixed, engineered, like, it is incredible. I can't wait to hear it on wax, because I know you already, just hearing you rap it live on, Instagram Live, I know it's going to be, like, even crazier once it hits the track. So, yeah, y'all definitely stay tuned. Follow Let the Dirt Say Amen. Before we get off here, is there anything you would like to say? Any shout out? Anything you'd like to say?
Let me shout out my kids first. Hannah, Zoe, Hannah, I love y'all, even though I know y'all not on Instagram right now. Maybe Hannah might be, but the other one should be asleep right about now. At any rate, I want to salute all of the people that are working now and have worked before to create DC's music community. I want to salute y'all, because there's people still over there banging out shit and letting the world know that, hey, the DMV is a little bit more than what the fuck you thought it was. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. I want to say shout out to brother Chase Infinite. Hey, yo, Chase, get at me, man. Shout out to Sister Jelly. Shout out to my man Keith Mills. Yo, y'all check out Mills Thursdays. Follow that on Instagram, MILLS Thursdays, Mills Thursdays. Shout out to my man Ronnie Bueller. Be looking out for some new shit coming with me and him. I could probably shout out for the next 10 minutes if you let me, but I'm going to cut them off right there. My lady is beside me, so I don't have to really shout her out, but I'm going to shout her out anyway, because I shout her out all day, because I love her and she loves me, and she is one of the driving forces behind what I'm doing. That's one of the other key things I will say, is while we don't have a machine right now, she and I have been the machine, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to the other people that have been helping me move without a full-blooded machine, without the budget, without all of that shit. Shout out to my man, Dom Green, for doing videos for me. Shout out to Roddy Rod for doing videos for me. Shout out to my man, Irvin Green, who did that LaMonica video. E. Green, I love you, brother. Shout out to my man, Chris Brown, for believing in me as much as I believed in him. And, be on the lookout for that collaboration as well. No, I'm just joking. Chris doesn't know me at all. But yeah, man, salute to all the people that love me, man, and the people that have been looking out for me in these moments and moments before now when I needed people to look out for me. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all, and I'm doing this shit for you just as much as I'm doing it for me, because I know you tired of hearing that goofy shit. Some of y'all might like that goofy shit, but I know you still need a balance, so that's where I come from.
No,
I like some of that dumb shit too here and there, but I just, we need a balance. We need something to say, yo, man, let's stay alive. All right?
No, I'm in total agreement with you, and like, this is what I love about like the underground space and like why I do what I do. And I'm, like I said, I'm operating in an underground space as well. Like, I'm very small, like I'm very like new to this. But I just had a passion for like music, and I think meeting folks like you, as well as my friends, and like I mentioned earlier, like Dags on here, he put me on to Let the Dirt Say Amen. And so being able, I see some folks in here who I'm like, I know I put you on to Let the Dirt Say Amen. So it's like, I want to keep that up. Like, I want to that's why I do what I do. And like, that's why I love the underground. And I like I want to bring back genuine conversations. I want to bring back, like, just provide a space and a platform that just feels like, no hate and shit, just like strictly, let's talk about good ass music and let's talk about community and build together. So I really, really, really appreciate you coming to me tonight, Dirt.
Well, all the shit you just said, you're doing that. All right. And even though you might consider the movement small at this time, you're big still. You know what I'm saying? Like, you doing that, and you are offering us a place to come and say, hey, yo, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. While other people are overlooking me, this dope ass sister said, yo, I hear you. I see you, man. Come through and let's have a chat so that the people can get to know you. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that shit. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, everyone, please go follow Let the Dirt Say Amen. Watch this live back because he dropped so many gems.
And remember this. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to leave y'all with one more thing.
Please.
Right? Every album that I have released since I have been a solo artist is an award-winning album. I'm not saying that because I'm talking shit about it. I'm saying that because I actually won awards for this shit. How many people, again, we're going to do some Muhammad Ali real quick, dazzle it in there with the humility. How many people can you find that they first joint, second joint, wow, both of them are award winning. So I encourage you to go hear this award winning shit.
I know that's right. That's so true. And anybody, again, go back and watch this interview because we talked about that. He is award winning. He has won. We talked about God Hates Gucci earlier. There was a whole bunch of folks in here. I was like, I love that album. That album is award winning. He was award winning as an artist as well. So was Bullets. We talked about that album too. So please watch this back. Go listen to all those projects. Go find. We talked about the Cornel West Theory group he was in. Watch this back and get all the gems so that you can invest in.
And the Cornel West Theory.
Yes.
We got 2 whammies for being the best hip hop artist in DC. This is I've been doing this shit over the course of what? At least 1 decade as far as award winning goes. So again, I don't know how many more times, I don't know what else we gotta do, what else we gotta say. Like it like, what else? What more do you need to encourage you to say, yo, stop everything, go listen to this shit. Go look at all the videos. All right. Look at the video on IG, then go look at the shit on YouTube too. Help people like the DOPE artists of the world, the dope motherfuckers. All right. Like myself, but it's some others. Help us run the numbers up. Organically. All right. Organically. Go tell a friend and go, nigga, if you watch the shit once, watch it again. It's not going to hurt you. You ain't even got to keep the sound up. Just watch it so the play can get registered so we can show them metrics since that's all they believe in. You know what I'm saying? That's all they see is, oh, what are your numbers like? What are your numbers like? What are your numbers like? And I'm like, yo, ask the people how they feel about this shit. Why don't you go down into the concrete and ask them what's going on? Because they know. And if they didn't know before, they know today.
Word. I'm in total agreement of like everything you just said because it's so true. And we talked about this too. Go watch this interview back. We talked about what it means to support artists and provide that organic metric, those organic data, right? And we also talked about the inverse, right? We also talked about like having a lot of followers and stuff like that doesn't necessarily mean you own, right? Having a lot of streams don't necessarily mean you own, right? Because what I always loved about like music in general, but today we're here for hip hop, but what I've always loved about music in general is how it made you feel, right? And so I think when you just said ask the people how they feel, right, that's poignant because that's what it's about. It's how we're making real people, real bodies, not bots, not people that's running up, listen to the same song 100 times. Real people who are invested in the culture or invested in music. How are you making them feel?
Yeah.
Impact. And that's what's important.
Yeah, man. This is the last thing. I know I keep saying this is the last thing, but I meant to say this earlier. This is the beauty of this, right? Now, I ask people how young they are because people worry about age. We definitely, ageism has become a new, I don't know if that word existed before, but it's a thing. It's particularly a thing within hip hop culture. All right. Anywhere else you go, motherfuckers are really looked at as legends. But within hip hop, you have people that will really they'll hear the name Rakim and they'll hear the name, LL Cool J or Queen Latifah or MC Light, and it's just it's like, nah, motherfucker, do you know who that is? So this is the point I make. How young are you, sis? What's your age?
I'm 22.
All right, so you're 22. I'm 45. Inshallah, I'll be 46 in May. But somehow, some way, the music that I made at this age connected with you at your age. So the point of it is this: dope is just dope.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think I was having a conversation with another artist who's a friend of mine, and we were talking about just that how music, especially when you're doing it, in a genuine way, like we talked about classics and stuff like that, how people know music across generations, right? The reason why we know some of the greats, right? We can name like Nas or like Jay-Z like that, even though we're like younger, right? But because they set up this, classic or this, so I there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and I think that's really poignant. And I don't think that music has an age. I'm one of those people that think that you can get put on. I listen to a lot of music from the 70s. Like my mom is a huge blues fan, so a lot of the things I listen to and know, you'd be like, damn, how you know about them? It's because I was put.
Yeah. Hey, listen, somebody gonna ask me, hey man, how do you know who No Savage is, or some of the other artists that are out now that are way younger than me? And I just threw that one out because he's from my hometown.
Yeah.
But I keep my ear to the street too, and I appreciate being able to have the dialogue with somebody younger than me who's more closer to the current of what's happening today. And that's how I also try to keep my music dope, is by making sure I'm paying attention. So it's not like you just rapping and saying shit that has no, place really in what's happening today. It's like if you listen, you can hear that those references are, this shit, he's paying attention to what's going on. Even if you listen to the way I rap, it's influenced and inspired by some folks younger than me, as well as folks older than me. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I appreciate you and the bridge right here in this particular conversation.
Yes, most certainly. And Darian is so right. Darian just said, great music will reach and touch all demographics. That's so true. We just said, people from like all different generations, So I definitely think, Dirt, you are the one. I think you are the one that people are going to...
One of them.
Yes, you are the one. You are out here and you're putting out great music, and I'm just so glad to have had this conversation with you. Again, anybody who's watching right now, anybody who's going to watch in the future, go back, catch the gym, follow, let her say amen. Keep up with what he has going on, because he's really influential. He's really out here doing good work, amazing work, incredible work. The lighting. I'm serious though. This isn't, y'all know I gas people, but I necessarily gas people who is
nah, that's the fire emoji.
Yeah.
This ain't gas. This
fire.
Is all real shit.
Right. Real. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everyone who tuned in tonight, who had a great commentary. This platform, exists because of the great work that y'all do as artists, that I get to consume and, have great conversations with. So I'm sure I'll see you around in the future. We're all...
Yeah. No doubt, man. I owe my hometown a visit. I've been in LA for the last 5 months at least. So I can't wait to go home and touch down. So yeah, hopefully I will definitely walk your way in passing, man. Be able to give you a hug and shit. And yo, salute to everybody in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, particularly Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, Southwest. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I'm in the Northwest.
There
So
you go.
and I know what I know. Like we had this conversation earlier. I went to Howard, so like what I know is, the little bit that I've been able to grasp onto and find out, research myself, and it's just I love to have conversations with people who are from the city, and they rep the city hard and they rep it proud and they rep it in a way that is impactful and influential. So I really appreciate you sitting down, having schooling a young buck like myself, and just giving us like all of it, not just your own story, but the historical references too. So we off of here, Dirk. One last question, because we like to pass the torch.
Yeah.
Tell me who you're listening to right now that qualifies as underground.
All right, who am I listening to? I'm definitely listening to Nino Green.
Hey.
Kayla and Sean Bourne. That's my brothers from 3 to Galway. If y'all haven't heard Mount Olympus, you could go hear that. We're also up for Best Hip Hop Artist in the DMV and the Whammies. I told y'all it's what I do. But, I did it with my team this time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely listening to them brothers. Dave Napalm. Yo, check out Dave Napalm. That brother shit is dope. Check out my sister Speaking of Cakes. All right. And that's cake spelled Kakes. All right. Speaking of Cakes. Look her up. Dope as shit. Kenilworth Trynna, always one of my favorites. And I be listening to old shit a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like I get my inspiration from stuff that I guess was created when I was born. You know what I'm saying? So, but as far as like new people, those are some of the people that definitely have my attention right now. But home team first, like I said, Nino Green is on the way. Shout out to Howard Knox. Shout out to Judah. Shout out to Roddy Rod. I'm waiting to hear that shit, man. They probably didn't, but I'm praying they used at least one of the beats I sent them for the album. But even if they didn't, I know that shit is going to be fucking brilliant because the first project was, if y'all just go look that up, Nino Green, just type it in your search engine, by Camber and Sean Bourne. The next one is coming. I'm looking forward to that shit. Like I said, Dave Napalm, very dope artist. Go check him out. His shit is amazing. Check out YU.
When I got into Mount Olympus, for some reason his voice stuck out to me because it was somebody else that I know that rap, but his voice stuck out to me because it's so unique. But I've been like looking into since I heard Mount Olympus. Like I've been looking. I think
please check out my man YU. He's always been an amazing motherfucker on beats and rhymes. I say that again. He's, some people know him for being a part of a crew called Diamond District. That was YU, Uptown XO, shout out to XO, and Odyssey. And they, definitely put out some fire shit. And YU was doing stuff before that. He's doing stuff after that. YU was my man. He's one of the people that when I finally hit the DC music scene for real, that I heard and was just like, yo, this dude, like, damn, he from here and he rapping like that. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to YU. I got a project actually coming out with my brother RNL. RNL. All right. And I think the album is called No Emojis, Please. So y'all be looking out for that shit too. It's gonna be beautiful. Y'all should get that soon. And yeah, like I said, other than that, I'm just listening to a lot of older shit. You know what I mean? Depending on the day, you know what I mean? The ones I named are the people that I'm checking out right now. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, dope. I mean, that's it. That's all I have for you tonight.
That's it.
One last time, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm a DM you folks that my homies that I think you should check out.
Please, I love finding like my.
Your dad is one of them that I think MTS Music, Books, Tills, like those are some of the guys that I've been put on to. And Tills is from Virginia. MTS Music lives in Maryland, but he's from New York, and Books is from New York. And so, and Dags, I think, I'm pretty sure Dags is from Virginia. So those are I'm going to
send them up. Yeah, send them joints. And one more, you just reminded me. I'm also been checking out Colombo Black. Dope artist. Been checking out a brother named Mike Stro. Dope. Fire. So if y'all see those names, go look them up. That shit is amazing.
Okay, dope. We're going to get off of here.
And shout out to Pete Rock. Hey, Soul Brother #1. My lady said let you go. My bad. Long live Doom.
Yes, long live Doom. I appreciate you again for coming on. We're going to end this live. Good night to you and your lady. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody in the chat who added their commentary, who supported, and who watched. Thanks to everyone who will watch this back in the future. So, again, check me out if you want to, see more artists, underground rising artists, and know about their story. There's a lot of great interviews coming up in the future. More great interviews coming up in the future with some dope underground artists. So stay tapped in. Some of y'all are gonna be surprised. So we starting off with Let the Dirt Say Amen and Dags and everybody else who I've interviewed, and we're continuing the tradition. So.
And remember, until someone else wins Best Hip Hop Artist and Best Hip Hop Album, I'm still.
All right, Dirk. I'll see you around.
Peace. Thank you, sis.
Love.